Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Industry Innovators podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Cornett. I'm the founder and CEO of SC Innovate, an AI consulting firm helping clients with every step of their AI journey. AI is impacting every single industry right now. No matter if you have a small business or you're part of a large corporation, there's an AI use case out there just waiting to make an impact in your industry. I wanted to find a way to shine a light on how other industries have experienced innovation and how they perceive the future of their industry with the help of AI solutions. I created this podcast to speak with industry leaders to understand how they've experienced and embraced innovation within their industry. What is their perception of AI within their industry and how it can provide some tangible benefit, as well as their prediction for future innovation within their industry. This makes for an incredibly collaborative conversation where we share ideas about AI and other transformative technology and discuss the way they are reshaping the way we do business. Joining me as my very first guest is my dad. Steve Sachs is a 45-year veteran of the electric power industry. He has worked for 7 different electric utilities in 5 different states as the CEO or general manager. He has worked through significant technological changes in utilities. I'm very excited to discuss with him his experience with innovation and his predictions for the future of innovation within the electric power industry. Please join me in welcoming my dad, Steve Sachs, to the Industry Innovators podcast. Welcome, Dad, to the first episode of my new podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Well, wow, what a pleasure and a thrill it is to be your first guest on your first podcast. So, spot on, daughter, and thanks for the questions. You've sent them to me in advance, and I've had a chance to kind of look through them and get my thoughts together. So, I'm going to pass it back to you and look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm excited to have you on. I couldn't think of a better person I wanted to start this podcast series with, given your amazing, incredible experience in electrical utilities. So, you are a 45-year veteran of the electric power industry. You've worked for 7 different electric utilities in 5 different states as the CEO or general manager. You're obviously experienced with some incredible technology changes and innovation within your industry. So, could you describe how you've seen innovation from your own experience?
So, some people will say, "Oh, you've never been able to hold a job more than a few years," but that's not true. I've had long careers. I guess 15 years maybe is the longest. So I've just been around long enough and changed utilities a lot. In the last few years, I've been doing some small interim assignments where I go in for 6 or 8 or 12 months and fill in while the older manager left or retired and the new manager's coming, and they just need somebody to be there to keep people going. And that's been a lot of fun because I've met a lot of people around the country. So the questions about technology and innovations, gosh, I've seen the whole gamut of things in our world. Back in the late 60s, when I got started in this business, early 70s, we had very little technology. But believe it or not, your mom and I lived in a very small mountain town in North Alabama, and we were on their local water system, and they had mechanical meters in the field in the ground, and and they had somebody that walked the streets every month and read those meters, and then on a piece of paper in a book on a piece of paper, and then at the end of the week, that guy would turn in his book, and they had a lady at a desk, and she would calculate our bill, our water bill, and then she had a typewriter with a big line of cards stock. So they would feed through this typewriter, and she literally would type everybody's bill and their address every, not month, but every quarter, because it was such a slow process that she couldn't There's no way one person could do that and send you a bill once a month. Um, and in my world, I was in the electric world in another town, and we were just beginning to computerize that process. Not that we did it by a typewriter, but we would send it off to another city. So we literally had to outsource. We read our meters the same way. We walked the streets and we read them, but we had to send that data off to another city. And then they had a computer. These computer systems were so big that you had a building with just nothing but computers in it. And so we sent that off to another place. They would computerize our readings and our bills, and then they would mail them to our customers, and then our customers would pay their bill. That's all we had computerized, was just the billing part of it. So the business side of it, paying our bills and paying our employees, that was a mechanical process. I can see my folks sitting in ledger books, big ledger books, writing down people's hours and their pay for the week and writing checks. So that's sort of how my life got started, Sarah. And little by little, technology just really embraced us. Um, One of your questions is, what do I see as the barriers for technology? There's always been the barrier. People have always resisted that next step up to something automatic or something being done in a computer box, and they didn't see it, and they had very little doubt that it could do what they did and could do it faster and correct every time. So that resistance has been something that I've tried to encourage my employees to look. uh, This is the way of the future. We see this process changing. And as you know, you can't live forever, and you can't do the same thing that you've been doing forever.
Right.
So why don't we try it? And we'll run parallel for a few months till not I'm convinced, but you're convinced that what this system's doing is doing it right. It's doing it right all the time. And it's been a hard transition, but gosh, the electric industry has really changed dramatically from what it used to do to what it does today. But guess what? We're still generating electrons, we're still transmitting them, and we're still selling them, and people are still using them just like they've done from the early days of Tom Edison and Nikola Tesla. All that process hasn't changed a whole lot. While the equipment's changed, and the trucks and the equipment we use have all changed, the basic laws of physics are still the same. But what has really dramatically changed is the way we do our business and how we relate to our customers and how our customers relate to us. Um, and I see that just growing by leaps and bounds in the future. I've watched it happen for the last 40, maybe even 50 years. I won't say that, but uh, I don't see anything but a continued evolution of this process, because just like the banking business, just like the medical business, just like every business in the world, we have customers, we sell a service, they have expectations of what that should look like. We have expectations of what that should look like. A lot of times we get it right, but there are times when we get it wrong. And we're all trying to be smarter, faster, better, and more nimble to meet our customers' needs. And I think that's what this conversation's about.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't believe, from your starting off from you were just out of college, starting off with writing from the meters in books to now with the technology we have in our pockets, right? It's just incredible that you've seen so much within your tenure within your industry. It's just incredible to see how far we've come now. I'm interested to talk about, what are your perceptions of AI now? AI is everywhere right now. Every single industry seems to be interested in AI and how they can leverage it for their own industry. You know, there could be some things with the automatic sort of meter reading now, or that customer communication platform like you talked about. You know, I can see those solutions being incredibly beneficial for your business. So what are you thinking about AI now, or like how can you see this sort of transforming your industry now?
So let me back up and say that as I've transitioned through my career, um, I've never seen a technology come about that I wasn't really intrigued with. Now, I wasn't an early adopter to all the technology, um, but I tried to stay aware of what's going on because one of these days you're going to have that aha moment that man, that's something that could really change our business for the better, and then you go after it.
Right.
Um, I will also tell you that in my history, um, when I did embrace the technology, like for example, like the early years of automatic meter reading, how cool would that be if we could put in these new meters for about the same cost that the meters we already had, which were mechanical meters. Um, how cool would that be if we didn't have to walk the streets every month and go knock on doors and read meters in people's backyards and
Mhm.
deal with gates and fences and dogs
Mm.
and mad wives and mad husbands and mad boyfriends and mad girlfriends and all the things we've had to put up with. Um, we wouldn't have to do that anymore. So the early years of that involved electronic meters and low power RF radio transmissions.
Mm.
And you would drive down instead of going to every house, you would drive down the road in your van and
Mhm.
you would dial into every one of the meters and read them on this low power RF signal that would come out of your meters. And I bought some of those and I put some of those in. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now we don't have to worry about putting on rain gear and walking the streets with a book. And when you write the readings down, they get smeary and smudgy from the water. Now we can put those guys in trucks and they can cover a lot more territory in a day than they could before. If a meter reader could read a couple hundred meters a day, that was a pretty good number. When we went to the vans, um, uh, oh, we could read 400 or 500 a day because it was quicker and it was always correct. Every digit was right instead of getting them superimposed and
Mm.
backwards and all that stuff. So what a great deal that was going to be. And somebody said, aha, but one day you're going to be able to do that from your office. And I'm like, how
Mm.
exactly would I ever do that from my office? And they go, well, we're going to build this wireless network and we're going to do all this stuff on this wireless network. And I said, I hear what you say, but I don't believe the people in America would let you. I don't believe Americans would let you put up these towers every 5 miles and you're going to chalk, put them all over the United States, every 5 miles in squares, in checkerboards is the word I was trying to think of, and 5 mile blocks. People are going to absolutely throw you off their property. They're not going to let you do that. Aha, was I completely wrong? Because what I didn't realize was we were going to have a telephone that was connected to that network, and that was how they were going to sell it. And gosh, it just seems like overnight, even though it was probably 20 years, these towers were going up everywhere, and these flashing lights were everywhere. And I'm like, the people of the country are not going to support this. Aha, was I wrong? They really did support it because of the convenience and the ease of being able to talk on a phone and talk in your home. And I went to a technology meeting back then that said, yeah, remember we had landlines where you had to talk on a desk set. And then if you wanted to continue the call, you had to hang up and maybe get in your car if you had one of those radio telephones, and then if not, you had to go to your office and call them back. And somebody said one day, yeah, that's not going to happen because you're going to have a device that you can talk at home, talk in your car, talk anywhere, talk on your boat, talk in the dentist office, talk anywhere you want. And I go, that's never going to happen. Why would anybody want that? Well, there you go. You guys, you technology people see a vision that I just have to catch up with. So all of my perceptions were completely wrong, and I just had to keep hanging on and trying to learn this technology. But I thought, and I've said this many, many times, I thought this one idea was, if I didn't get a little embraced into the new and emerging technology, that one day I would find myself sitting at home as an old gray-haired man and not be able to make a doctor's appointment, not be able to buy anything on the internet, not be able to take a trip on an airplane or a train. I was just going to be completely lost. So I better stay a little bit. I don't need to be on the bleeding edge of this stuff, but I probably need to be somewhere in the process, or the train's going to leave the station and I'm going to be wondering where the heck everybody went. So, so I have made a lot of mistakes. I have made a lot of mistakes in the past. I have jumped out and bought technology that, number one, wasn't completely developed. I bought some business accounting, utility accounting, and customer data software from a vendor that was emerging into a new platform. And they asked me if I would be serial number 0001. And if I did, they would give me great discounts and work with our staff to train and all that at their cost and all these wonderful things. And 3 years later, it never worked. And so we spent our time and money and hopes that this platform would work, and they did too, and it never did. And so we literally had to throw the baby and the bathtub and the bath water out the door and start it all over again. And that company had to change, and we had to change. So I've had some of those experiences. Most of my experience has been the other way around. We bought some technology. This is pretty neat and this is pretty cool. And it worked as they promised. The problem that we got into in the 2000s was a lot of this stuff wouldn't integrate. You had this system over here reading meters, and then you had this system over here that was sending out bills. And then we had this system that was managing power loads and trying to forecast, winter loads, summer loads, that kind of stuff. And to get data from one to the other, you literally had to take a flash drive and download this file and then run into another room and upload that file. None of it was compatible. And so people were then coming out with software that would integrate. We have this software package and we can integrate anything to anything. But boy, that sounded like a great thing for us to try. And we did. And of course, it didn't work. And the languages were different. The platforms were different. And so we had a lot of false starts. But just like Windows, when we moved from DOS, right? Remember DOS software? I remember when they put computers in classrooms. IBM computer in a classroom. Now students carry their computers in their backpacks, and they all have computers, maybe two. So that the process that changed in the Windows world changed also in the mainframe world, and things began to stabilize. The platforms became very common, and everybody rewrote their software to work with those common platforms. And that was a really big movement in the technology world for our business. So that wasn't the question. Your question was, where do I see this AI thing going? I think it's just another evolutionary step in all of the technology, all the integration, all the ways that this technology world is making us smarter, better at decision making, making life a little better and a little easier. And I only look for that to be better in the future.
Mhm.
So I will say that the little bit that I've looked at AI, hey, Chat GPT, maybe I need to learn what the heck this stuff is. So went out, downloaded it, played around a little bit with it, and I've got it on my computer. I haven't figured out exactly that one thing I need to do with it, but when I do, I have it ready to go and I will.
Mhm.
But I remember when word processing came out, and I remember when spreadsheets came out, and I remember when database stuff came out in the DOS platform. And I thought, well, I don't ever know what I'm going to do with all that technology, but might want to learn it. Now, a day doesn't go by that I don't use some or all of that stuff. So I think AI is going to be the same thing. I think it's happening behind the scenes, and we don't know it yet.
Mm.
Um, and I think it's going to make some of our life things much, much better and easier. And I know it's going to be big, a big step forward for business people.
Yeah, wow, that's just incredible hearing you talk about, the entire evolution and hearing some of those like wins and losses that you've had with technologies. And it seems like you've always been kind of optimistic though about new technology and how it can provide that benefit. You've just run into some speed bumps along the way, which is definitely understandable, right? When you're implementing new things and seeing how it's going to play well with your existing platforms and things like that. So it's very interesting. You're able to kind of still be optimistic about these new technologies, still welcome the new things that are to come in with AI, but just you've got so much wisdom of how to plug these things into right these existing systems because you've seen everything kind of go some wins and some losses, some things that you've got a lot of lessons learned. It seems like with technology.
So what is that old business theory? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You know, you've got to, you've always got to try to be out there looking at ways to make your business, whatever your business is, you got to look at ways to make it better, faster, and more profitable. And technology's been the train that's carried that decision for a long, long time. Because just like I said a while ago, we're still producing kilowatt hours, just like Tom Edison and Nikola Tesla did back in the late 1800s. So that hasn't changed. But what has changed is the way we do our business,
Yeah.
the way we manage the growth and the size of our business with the same amount of people. I would argue that most of all, I would argue all of the electric utilities in the country, if you graphed their customers per employees, you would find that over the years, their employees per customer, that trending line is not going up, it's going down. So
Mm.
you would think that if they went from 1 million customers to 10 million customers, they'd have a tenfold increase in their employees. But in fact, because of this technology, they're actually doing it with much less employees and they're more profitable with that. So that's probably true for other businesses as well.
Yeah,
Let's talk about
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. So
Your
yeah,
turn.
I think that's going to be interesting. That's always been that's something I hear all the time with other businesses and industries is like the impact on the job market there. So it sounds like you're seeing that as well with your work too.
So you asked me by email, to think a little bit about, where this might be going in the future. And I have had some time today to think of that. And my aha moment this morning was uh, we uh, we're always trying to figure out how to stabilize and have more of a predictable load curve. And when I talk about the load curve, it's that classic bell-shaped curve that everybody learned in Econ 101 when they went to college. And so, the load shape never, that load curve has never quite changed. The shape of it has never quite changed. The size of it expands and contracts based on how much energy people are using in any part of the the country and any part of the calendar year, but the shape is really pretty predictable, and the power never quite ever goes off. We have a load at night that's we call our base load, and it never changes much throughout the years. It's those businesses and things that run 24 hours a day. And then in the morning, it ramps up. Peaks could be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on the weather and where you live. And then by the evening, it ramps back down, and then it goes back to a base load. And that shape has been around forever. As we've tried to do business better, we've tried to manage our peak loads. What can we do to shave peaks? That was a big electric industry discussion about 30 years ago. We have the idea of we have people that have electric water heaters. Well, what if we don't let them run their water heaters when they come home at night from the hours of, say, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock? What if we cycle their water heaters where they all won't run at one time, and we can save all these millions of kilowatt hours? Well, that'd be a good idea, except what happens when they run out of hot water? No one's going to like that. Oh yeah, you're right about that. So we tried some of that. It didn't work. We took it all out. We have all these electric heat systems, and well, what if we get rid of these type of low efficiency units and we put in these high efficiency units? And we did that. In fact, here where I live, we actually financed it. We thought it was economically valuable to us to even encourage our customers to put in finance it, and they did. And those helped shape some of that. But now, as you've been reading, we now have this thing called electric vehicles. And I get a little anxious when I hear people on TV that are like, "Oh, we're going to have to completely double the amount of electric generating plants. We don't have enough electricity now. How in the world are we ever going to have enough when all these electric vehicles come online? So all these nuclear plants are going to have to be expanded, and all these wires are going to have to be rebuilt, and on and on and on." I disagree with that. I absolutely think that we're going to be able to do this a lot smarter now with things like AI, so that when you bring your car home, first of all, not everybody's going to bring their car home every night and charge it up. Frankly, you don't buy gas every night when you come home. You might buy gas once a week or twice a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on how far you go. The same thing with a 400 or 500-mile electric vehicle. You're not going to charge it up every night. You're probably going to wait till it gets down into the lower 20% range, and then you're going to charge it up. So not everybody's going to charge up every night. Most of these rapid chargers, honest to God, we've got electric chargers now. I can show them to you that will charge your Tesla from about 20% down to about 80% full in 30 minutes. If you charge it up for a couple of hours, you definitely will fill it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to be able to, you'll plug in and we'll tell you when you can charge. And oh, by the way, we're probably going to do that off peak, right? We're probably going to do that late at night when we're looking for that load, because in fact, these nuclear plants are running 24/7. So we're looking at night for good solid load to put on them. And then our coal plants and our gas plants, those are running peak. They're running at peak times, and they're pretty expensive. So we'd like not to run those to charge cars with, and we'd like to charge them with our base loaded. So what's going to be the platform that takes your lifestyle and your needs and the community needs and society needs and put all that together and make the best for everybody? I think it's going to be AI. And I think that's what's driving this whole thing. And so as you can tell, I'm pretty optimistic. of what we're going to be doing in the next 10 years um, that we haven't even thought of today, that
Right.
some pretty smart guys and gals in little rooms or all around the world are writing software to do things like this that we haven't even thought of or heard of. And that's going to be the game changer. I think AI is going to drive all that. And it's going to work seamlessly to the point where people are going to say, I don't know how it knows how to do that, but it does. And all I care is that it works. And when I get in my car, it see, there I am. You don't really start an electric car, you turn it on.
Mm.
And away you go. So uh, I think the merger of AI and at least the electric world that I know is going to be an awesome horizon to be part of.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, I'm thinking of my head is spinning of other ideas of how you could use the technology, but it's really that optimization of the power grid, but using now additional data points like that customer behavioral data so that you're able to fully optimize an entire city and their power usage. And you could be sitting in your shoes as a manager of this electric company in charge of a city and have a real-time dashboard come up and say, okay, here's where these peaks and valleys are across the city. And now you can really easily map that out across the city or town that you're in charge with. I think that's very, very promising, very exciting to see how AI can be a part of that.
And what's changed the game is where I started. This early idea of electronics replacing mechanical devices. Now we have everything that's electronic. Now we have this wireless technology platform that's now what, 5G technology. So now you can watch, high def movies on your phone while you're riding in the car with your daughter driving you to
Mm.
your doctor's appointment. I mean, whoever thought of this? It wasn't us. It
Mhm.
was people that sit in these think tanks and come up with all these wild things. In my life 2 weeks ago, we had to replace our garage door opener, and uh, when the technicians came and put the new one in, he said, "Sir, do you want me to turn on your Wi-Fi? If you do, I need your Wi-Fi password." And I'm like, "Partner, why in the world does my garage door opener have a Wi-Fi
Yep.
chip?" And they said, "Oh, well, you can do all kinds of things with your garage door that you couldn't do before. I just, I'll be happy to log it in if you give me your password." And I go, "What else would it do besides open and close?
Mhm.
Why do I need to give you my password?" And I'm pretty leery about giving passwords out. And it was like, "Oh, well, we'll download this app and you'll see all these things it'll do." And I go, "But sir, it's just a garage door opener. It's not like my high def television." And they go, "Well, okay." And I go, "Well, all right, here's my password." Well, what I didn't know was now every time it opens and closes, I get a time and date stamp. So if I have people coming and going, I know who's coming and going in my house. That now ties into my smart grid, that ties into my home security system and turns on and off cameras, if I need them to. I have I have the ability to open and close it from anywhere in the world. If somebody calls me and needs in my house, I can let them in. Couldn't do any of that before. If that's the step into having a totally smart home, I guess I made that jump 2 weeks ago. I wasn't thinking out of the box.
Mhm.
And so now that I have, I'm like, well, this is what's going to happen when you come into your house 10 years from now. Everything's going to be tied to this Wi-Fi network that you have. I have a gig, I have gig Wi-Fi service at my home. I didn't have gig Wi-Fi service at my office till about 15 years ago when we ran completely out of capacity and I had to put in a 5 or 10 gig service. And I'm like, why do I need that at home? Well, because you get it for less than $100 a month, you might as well have it. And I'm beginning to fill that up. So
Mhm.
as you can tell, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty optimistic. And I think, at least in the business I've been in and loved all these years, technology is going to drive it. If it's AI now, it's going to be something else after that. And things are going to happen, and we're going to wonder exactly how that worked. And then later, we're going to say, we don't care. As long as it works, as long as it makes sense, we'll embrace it.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Yeah, you seem very optimistic. I feel like there's so many possibilities for AI in your industry and your business, how to make your life better as a electric manager, but for every one of us as well, the end consumers of electricity, where every single person, in society is consuming electricity to some degree. So it's just so incredible and fascinating to see your thoughts about how we can apply from your learnings from taking it all the way back from the start of your for your career to seeing how this technology has just grown and how we're at this now tipping point of using this innovative technology today with AI and how we can open the doors of so many more possibilities and use cases and ways we can improve our lives. So it's been really great learning from you about all of your wisdom and everything you've experienced.
So I know our time's about to leave us, and thank you for the opportunity to do this. So I want to leave you with one of my most favorite technology stories. I'm the CEO of a pretty big utility in Middle Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, and it's a Friday night, and my phone rings, and I look at it, and it's the mayor of our town, and pretty important guy to me. And
Yep.
I pick up the phone and I go, Mayor, how you doing? What's going on? What can I help you with? And he said, Steve, I've got to beg a favor from you. Um, uh, and my wife is absolutely livid with you right now. I'm afraid to put her on the phone, and I'm going, well, sir, what seems to be the problem? And he said, apparently, um, our power's been cut off. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you, but I'm sorry. Has it been cut off, or are you having a power outage? Well, no, we checked with our neighbors and all their power's on. Um, and I said, well, sir, I have to ask the basic question. Have you missed paying a payment? Have we cut your power off for non-payment? And he said, that's a really good question. And my wife usually takes care of that. But right now, I'm afraid to ask her, uh, is there somebody you can check with? And I said, well, hang on just a minute, sir. And I got on my laptop and I dialed into our computer network. And sure enough, he was on the um, cutoff list that day. And
Uh-oh.
usually that comes to my desk before they do that. So I can at least make that complimentary call just to see if there was a mistake somewhere. Well, somebody else made that call and they weren't home and didn't answer their phone. And so they thought, well, he's on the list. And so they cut him off. So I said, yeah, Mayor, I'm so sorry about that. Well, what do I got to do? I know you got to send somebody over here. I know you got to do this or that. And I go, no, not really. If you'll go on this if you'll go on this number and you I'm sorry, my phone just fell off. You go on this number and enter your credit card information. We'll get the power back on. And so he said, okay. And I said, call me back if you have a problem. So uh, about 10 minutes later, he called me back and he said, Steve, and he had a slow Southern voice. And he said, Steve, what in the world have you all done at the utility? And I go, what do you mean? And he said, well, I did what you said. I called and I got our account. And yes, it was past due. I put in my credit card number. It said, thank you very much. We'll have your power on in just a few minutes. And then almost instantaneously, my power came back on. Nobody came out. Nobody came out to see me. No, I thought maybe it's going to take a couple hours for a truck to come and turn us on. And then all of a sudden, it just like somebody threw a switch and it came back on. And I go, yeah. Sorry, Mayor, that's the new technology we've recently put in. And
Yeah.
he said, I got to come have lunch with you and find out what all you're doing over there in the electric department. I can't believe this exists. And so that was a bad situation, turned really good for me and for him, all because technology intervened and worked for us. So it always excites me when I think about things that we can do to help our relationship with our customers, like that story. And I think the future is really bright, no pun intended. And I just hope I'll be around long enough to see what the next wave of stuff is.
Wow, that's the incredible story. And it is so amazing that the power of that technology to instantaneously react and almost in real time like that. So that's a amazing story to end on, I think. I think it's been very eye-opening to hear from your experience, and it's so exciting to hear your optimism about AI, not just because your daughter happens to work in AI, but I think, I could listen to you talk all day, your amazing stories about technology, and I think we should sit down sometime and talk about some ideas of some use cases for your business. I think we could come up with some really, really cool ideas for electric power. But thank
Yeah.
you so much for being on my very first podcast. I definitely look up to you as a role model. You're certainly an expert in your industry, and definitely an industry innovator, given all of your experience in technology. So it's been an amazing conversation. I've learned so much from you in such a short amount of time about the work that you do. So want to thank you again for being the very first guest on my very first podcast. So I really appreciate your time today.
Well, Sarah, thanks for the invite. I really hold this real special. And maybe we'll start a new segment of Sarah and her dad talk about AI in the future. I don't know. Maybe we'll come up with a neat little topic and we'll do this again sometime. But uh, best of luck with everything. And, you know, you ought to come see your mom and dad sometime when you get a chance.
I know. Yeah, I've got to working on planning the next trip, so I'll definitely get down to see you guys soon.
Okay. Our best to everybody. Bye bye.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this channel and tune in for more interviews with industry innovators. I'm your host, Sarah Cornett. Keep innovating.